The Saucony Ride 13 wasn't a shoe I was excited for, but after 50 miles, my opinion has changed with a couple caveats. Let's get into the full review. Cue the music! Welcome back to the channel, everybody. If this is your first time here, my name is Brendon, and on this channel, I upload videos multiple times a week, all about the sport of running, from gear reviews to shoe reviews to training tips and everything in between. So if that's something you're into, I'd really appreciate it if you could join us by hitting that subscribe button right down below. And let's defeat that pesky YouTube algorithm by smashing that like button. I hate ones and zeros. Do you hate ones and zeros? Anyway, let's get into the full review of the Ride 13. So I'm not going to spend too much time on the technical specifications. I did that in my initial impressions. So if that's something you want to go see, I'll leave a link to it down in the description below. But just overall, quickly, it comes in at 312 grams or 11 ounces in my size 10.5 US men's. And yes, it does fit true to size. This shoe has a 32 millimeter stack height in the heel, 24 I think in the forefoot for an 8 millimeter drop. And I think, for me personally, that is the sweet spot. 8 millimeter drop is fantastic. Oh yeah, and the foam in here is the Power Run midsole that Saucony has put out this year. Saucony's midsole foams, guys, have been off the charts this year. And the Power Run midsole, well, we'll get into that later on in the video. Now, there are a lot of good things about this shoe, but there are a couple of negatives, so make sure you stay tuned to kind of hear my thoughts of what those are so you're informed when you go to pick up this shoe. Before we get into the upper, I want to just throw it over to our inspector to see if there's any durability issues with this, because if there's durability issues after 50 miles, you know what? This shoe's going in the garbage and I'm not recommending it. So let's see what the inspector had to say. Let's throw the shoe over to him. I'm an inspector. A shoe inspector. Brendon sent me the Ride 13 to examine the durability of this shoe. And so far, guys, after 50 miles, let's get out the trusty magnifying glass and just take a little bit of a look. Yeah, that's just exactly what I saw in the lab too. There's absolutely no wear. There's just a minor scuff there, but I think Brendon probably hit the side of curb. So you know what? Overall, the durability is fantastic. Let's throw it back to Brendon. Thank you so much for giving us that durability check-in. It's great to hear that there aren't too many issues to be concerned about. Just that one little nick on the side there, but that's whatever. Overall, the durability has been absolutely fantastic, so that is a good sign. In terms of the upper, it hasn't really changed over that 50 miles. It still has that pretty good lockdown. It's still extremely comfortable. It is very non-breathable, unfortunately, and that is gonna come up in the downsides here in a second. But overall, the gusseted tongue is fantastic. It's like a full-length gusseted tongue, and you know, guys, how much I love a gusseted tongue. But let's get into the downsides, because I have to make you aware. This upper absorbs everything. It's like a sponge. It cannot be raining or any type of precipitation. It could just be a humid day, which we have a lot of here in Nova Scotia. And guys, this upper just is soaking wet at the end of every run. I don't know if it's the sweat that it's absorbing, very likely, and that's a gross thought to think of. And when it does rain and I take this out, or if I run through a puddle, this thing gets extremely heavy and the upper takes a couple of hours, if not a full day to dry sometimes. It's just that much water is absorbed in it. And that's because of how plush it is. The tongue's extremely plush, the ankle collar is extremely plush, which on a good day, those are really good things. It makes for a very comfortable ride, albeit a little bit hot, but the upper is pretty darn comfortable. Another downside though is the material that they use here in the ankle collar. It's very slippery. It's extremely slippery. So if you wear slippery socks, you're gonna be slip sliding around, your heel's not gonna get a good lockdown, and it's gonna be kind of annoying because you're not gonna get that lockdown, your heel's gonna be slipping around, and no one wants that. But if you can get a proper type of sock, that hasn't been too much of an issue for me. So those are the main downsides for the upper. It absorbs a lot of water and gets pretty hot. And also, if you don't wear the proper socks, it doesn't give you a great lockdown. However, those are pretty small annoyances, I would say, for a daily trainer for me, because overall the upper has been absolutely fantastic, very comfortable. Just a couple of little annoyances, but because of that, we can't give it a great score, a perfect score. We have to go with 2.2 out of 3 for the score for the upper. And I just have to mention this one thing about the upper is how much structure there is through the heel. So if you don't like a very structured heel, definitely stay away, because this is like, it almost extends to the middle of the foot. Now in terms of the midsole, like I said in the introduction, this is the Power Run midsole foam. It's full length, although someone did tell me that it uses a different top sole, so pretty much like this section right here. Someone told me that they use Everrun, something like that. I might be wrong on that, so if you know something different, let me know in the comment section down below, because my understanding is that this is full length Power Run. I don't know though, maybe I'm wrong, who knows. But has it changed over the 50 miles? No, it hasn't. The Power Run midsole here still feels as fresh and as nice as it did on the day that I took it out for the first run. The Power Run midsole just keeps on delivering, and it's an odd feeling because you do get a little bit of cush, but it's not super cush. It's like the perfect mix, I think, for a daily trainer in terms of firmness and softness. It does it just right. You're protected, but you're not sinking into it, which I don't necessarily like for daily trainers. I'll reserve that stuff, my cushiony and plush shoes, for my easy days. But the Power Run midsole is an absolutely great choice for a daily trainer, in my opinion. It just gets the job done. Like, I'm not going out there and my mind's not being absolutely blown by the Power Run midsole, but at the same time, I don't have to think about it. It's just getting the job done. And in terms of a daily trainer, I really think that's all you need. You just need something that you can lace up each and every day and not have to worry about if you're gonna sink into it, or if your legs are gonna be tired, or you just don't have to think about it at all, and it feels absolutely fantastic for me. But guys, because it didn't blow my mind, I can't give it a 100% score. I'll reserve those for like the Zoom X's and the Power Run PBs. That's the 3 to 3s are reserved for that. So the Power Run midsole in the Saucony Ride 13, I think it actually does have the perfect amount of stack height as well, so that's another bonus. But I'm gonna have to give it a 2.4 out of 3 just because I'm not completely mind blown, but it does get the job done. But it's not something extremely special. It just works. One thing to mention about the midsole is that you do kind of have this more dense foam on the lateral side of your foot. I think that's the right term. But what it does is kind of like act as a little bit of mild stability, not something crazy, but if you are kind of sensitive to any types of stability, maybe this isn't the right shoe for you. Now the outsole is something I don't particularly get excited about with most shoes, but the Ride 13 outsole is not like most shoes. The outsole here does have a lot of rubber, which is actually kind of what I want for a daily trainer. I don't want it to wear down super fast, but guys, the rubber aside isn't what makes this thing extremely special. It has this like decoupled groove here, which is nice. I really enjoy the decoupled groove. But the Tri-Flex technology right here is what makes this shoe feel so smooth, and what really makes it feel for me that it can be used for anything. For a little bit more faster stuff, it feels fine. For slower stuff, it feels fine. Because I think this Tri-Flex just gives you a perfect smooth toe-off transition. It's so nice, and I absolutely love it. And for that reason, for the Tri-Flex giving you that nice smooth transition, and the amount of rubber here, which I don't think is over the top, I think it's actually a good amount for a daily trainer, I have to give this a 3 to 3 because it did blow my mind. The Tri-Flex technology, I don't know if I should have included that in the midsole or what, but I'm including it in the outsole just because that's where I see it. So the Tri-Flex technology mixed with the good amount of rubber here and absolutely no issues with slipping on like really rainy days, we gotta give this outsole a 3 out of 3. Now in terms of ride feel, pun intended, this shoe, it feels absolutely fantastic. Like I alluded to, you can use it for faster stuff. It feels fine because I think a lot to do with this Tri-Flex technology. It doesn't feel like it's weight. It doesn't feel like an 11th ounce shoe by any means. It feels nimble on foot, believe it or not. I don't know if it's like how it's shaped or like the weight distribution. I don't know what it is, but this feels absolutely fantastic for faster stuff, for slower stuff, for just daily miles. It feels absolutely fantastic. The downside is sometimes that it does get a little hot. Like I said, it does kind of absorb everything. All your sweat's gonna be absorbed, all that water is gonna be absorbed, and that can make for it to feel kind of heavy and sweaty and kind of uncomfortable at times. But on a day like today, for example, where it's relatively dry out and not too bad, it's a little chilly, and actually that's gonna be perfect to wear this shoe because it is a little hot, right? So it's gonna be great for the winter months. I think I'm really looking forward to wearing this shoe for a lot of my daily miles. I'm just really looking forward to it. In terms of the lockdown, like I mentioned, it does kind of suffer if you wear slippery socks, but if you wear, for example, these smart wool socks that I wear a lot in the winter, not a big issue. The lockdown's fantastic thanks to this little bit of a built up heel cup and a gusseted tongue if you wear the proper socks. So overall, what has annoyed me about this shoe and what have I just enjoyed about for this shoe? In terms of what have annoyed me, it's definitely the amount of water it absorbs and how hot it can get and just kind of soupy when you're out there sweating. It really annoys me. I'm sorry. Saucony, you gotta figure that out. I'm sorry. I just don't like having my feet all wet. And what has joyed me about this shoe? You're gonna not believe this, but it's the Tri-Flex technology in the outsole. The reason for that is I believe that this is the reason why the shoe feels so nimble on foot and why it feels absolutely fantastic to go fast in, to go slow in, to do whatever type of miles you want to do in this shoe. I think the Tri-Flex technology has a great deal to do with that. So yes, the Tri-Flex technology is what I'm most excited about for this shoe. So that leaves the question, should you run out and buy this shoe? Should you approach it with caution and kind of be wary of it? Or should you run the opposite way and not even consider it? Guys, I'm gonna say go out and buy this shoe if you don't mind a shoe that will get a little bit sweaty and hot and you don't mind a very plush built up upper. If you don't like those things, run the opposite way because this shoe has those things for sure. But 165 Canadian dollars or 130 US dollars, I think this shoe is gonna last you a long while and be able to do whatever type of miles you wanna do in it. All right guys, that is all for my Saucony Ride 13 full review. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. I so very much appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much for tuning in, leaving the comments, all that great stuff. It just fills me with joy. All right guys, I'll catch you on the next one. Next time, we're gonna be doing something a little bit different. Stay tuned. All right, have a fantastic evening.